Siapa no, siapa no, me la dan, que yo me la doy. No sé la mejor. Ey, ustedes dirán, no sé, marica, ¿qué le está pasando, mano? Pero estoy viendo mis ángulos. No, yo tengo unos ángulos muy azarosos, mano. Perfil muy letal, lo que vea eso. Baf, baf. Ay, mano. Me alegaba, me alegaba. Pero yo no le ponía cuidado. Ja, ja, ja. Bueno, buenas noches. ¿Qué tal todos? Cuidado, tú sí estuvo letal ahí. Dios mío, bendice mis pulmones. ¿Qué tal mis muchachos? ¿Cómo están? Muy buenas noches. Bueno, se funcionan los comentarios. Todo en orden. Hola, Samuel Gutiérrez. Así se llama un amiguito mío, Samuel Gutiérrez. Walter Salazar, ¿cómo estás, Walter? ¿Todo bien? Ok. Gracias por seguirme, Walter. Que Dios te bendiga. Walter me sigue hace tiempo. Ya sí, ok. Walter, muchas gracias. Espero el live mejore para presentarle un contenido de más calidad y que aporte mucho más de lo que estoy haciendo ahora, porque esa es la idea, ¿no? Alejandro Guzmán, ¿cómo estás? La idea es aportar y no restar. Sí, sí, claro, hace tiempísimo. Ya, ya casi cumplo un año de crear contenido. La verdad me ha gustado. ¿Qué tal ha visto la vuelta? Olimpo. Yo me siento relajadito, la verdad, fresquito, metiéndole al live. Una pregunta, Walter. eh, se está pausando el live hace un momentico. ¿Cuánto me pone Walter? Así. No sé cómo largo de esta cámara. No tengo más. Actualmente tengo más años. Raúl, ¿cómo estás? Vean esta Camila. Raúl. ¿Re Raúl o qué? ¿Eres un bebé? Claro. Y entonces, ¿quiere que esté viejo? ¿Qué? 19, Walter, no. Tengo un poco más, la verdad. Me gustaría tener menos, pero pues gracias a Dios me da una experiencia de vida ya de bastantes años. César Giraldo, ¿cómo estás? Uy, ¿puede ser mi profesor o qué? ¿Cómo fuera? Yo la verdad me apenaría si mi profe me viera, pero pues, ¿qué más vamos a hacer? ¿Qué más, profe? ¿Todo bien? Jessy, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cuántos pues? Tengo como 80 ya. Mentalmente 500. Iré yo feliz, ¿cómo estás? Ya no, lo tengo 23, los de Jordan. Porque dije la verdad tan fácil. No me gusta decirme nada. David, Rivero. La verdad, yo digo casi siempre que tengo 28 años y la gente siempre cree. Hay ahora aquí 500. Lisandro Galeano. Se sabe, se sabe. ¿Sabe qué? Esto aquí. Esto aquí no soy capaz yo de moverlo tan breve. Esta parte de aquí tengo menos conciencia de esto acá que de esta. Esta ceja la puedo mover muy bien, esta. Cambia esta nueva. Vea esa. Duan, ¿cómo estás? Más bro, ¿qué hice pues? ¿Qué tal me lo ha tratado la vida? Bueno, Pablo Andrés, ¿cómo estás? Y cuando ligas, ¿cuál ceja usas? Ninguna. Yo no ligo, ustedes saben que yo soy un tipo serio. Para ligar ambas cejas están, Daniel Martínez están calibradas. Ambas están calibraditas, ¿ok? ¿Cómo las vio? ¿Cómo las vio pues? Andrés Ramírez, ¿cómo estás? Oiga, muchacho, ¿usted qué le gusta ver? ¿De qué le gusta hablar? ¿No está todo esférico? No, yo soy una persona, yo la verdad no sé cómo definirme, bro. Una persona. Pero sí, estás muy contento con la vida. ¿Se entiende qué estoy haciendo ahí o no? ¿Qué es estratosférico? Estratosférico yo, bro. No ve, bro. Mira ese rostro. No lo miro mucho tiempo porque de pronto se petrifica. ¿Se hizo ese Zulander? ¿Se hizo ese Zulander? La propia Zulander. ¿Cómo la viste, Tatis? Tatis, por favor, no te enamores, ¿sí? Con calma. Con calma, con calma. Tati, ¿usted qué le pasó? ¿Por qué me dejó de seguir? Ya no vamos a ser marido y mujer. Tú no quieres estos genes para tus hijos. Mira eso. Estás perdiendo el tiempo. Rendón, háblame los Yarlex. ¿Qué más, mi hermano? ¿Cómo está? Espero todo esté muy bien. Ya no aguanto otra ilusionada. No, 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 no diga eso, Raúl, Raúl. Eso, Tati, ¿Usted qué, mi grupo? No me puede dejar de seguir. Tiene que ir a la perseverancia, se sabe. El que persevera alcanza, se sabe. Sé que mi bro, como todo excelente, Yarlesin. Gracias a Dios, todo muy bien, mi bro. Aliviado, que es lo más importante. Gracias a mi Dios, no. La salud es lo más importante. Usted que ya les está todo, ¿cómo va la familia? Raúl, Raúl, estoy enojado contigo. ¿Cómo sales y entras así de mi corazón? Por es nada. Qué bueno, bro. Bien, gracias a Dios. Me alegra hallarles que esté bien. Y es que, manito, es que una vez un chino yo lo escuché decir una frase que a mí me tramó, que él no se permitía estar triste. Eh, Mano, y eso la verdad compagina mucho con otra frase que leí hoy, que decía, es inevitable que los pájaros de los malos pensamientos vuelen por tu cabeza. ¿Qué quiere decir eso? Por decirlo así como, sí, los malos pensamientos, pensamientos de miedo, envidia, no sé, todas las cosas malas que tiene el mundo. Pero es tu responsabilidad no dejarlos hacer nido en tu cabeza, o sea, que se queden ahí. Entonces, sí, pilla, normal, la vida tiene sus cosas, sus problemas, pero uno no puede quedarse ahí, tiene que pararse. Yarles, ya casi, bro. Aleta el tiempo como ha pasado, bro. Era chimba la vida. Pero vida, no. Que disfrutarla y, pues no disfrutarla así haciendo cosas malas, no. Valorando. Uy, mano, no, yo me pongo muy reflexivo a veces, pero bueno, esa es mi esencia. Me trama a reflexionar de la vida, amigo. Ustedes no. O sí. Pero me dejan aquí solito, parado, como un miembro masculino viril. Le voy a contar una historia. Cuéntela, cuéntela. Fabio López. Cuéntela, yo le pongo cuidado. Yo me hice real nacer todo cabrón y como yo quiero ser. ¿Qué diferencia de personas o qué? No digo que esté mal, pero al ya de lo que me está hablando y a lo que me dice Raúl Raúl. ¿Cómo se sacan fotos los peces? Ay, güey, vea. No, manito. Me dejó petateado. Imagínate, yo con ese tema de hallarles aquí. Y usted me tira esa. ¿Y cómo de fotografían los peces? Con iPhone 17. O bueno, un celular que sea antiagua. No sé si el iPhone 17 es antiagua. Diría yo que sí. Pero no estoy seguro. Ahí no me di cuenta de que la vida. Ahí me di cuenta de que la vida cambió de un momento a otro. ¿Qué le pasó al señor ya, Luis? ¿Cómo? ¿Si le pegué o no? Primero iPhone 17. Mano, los peces portan la liga. Otro. ¿Pero qué le pasó? ¿Qué le pasó al señor Jarles? Creo que no sé si fue que TikTok no lo dejó terminar lo que escribió, pero usted solo escribió que fue al hospital. Sí, ya le sí es la real, weón. Tiene que uno valorar la vida porque, uff, aleta. Eso cambia muy rápido. Bueno, no sé. Uf, que, que en paz descanse entonces, Jarles, ok. Santi, ¿cómo estás? Aleta, mi bro. No le desea a nadie. Que en paz descanse el Señor y que Dios lo tenga en su santa gloria. No, Jarles, mano, vuelva de serio, huevón. Por el tigre. Ya no, ya no, Jarles, pero no es el momento indicado, bro. Ya de lo que estábamos hablando. Diego Andrés buscó novio. Ay, bueno, rea. Ya, Jarles, para que entretenga. Tira, bro, mentira. Ahí le regalo al Diego. Diga, diga. No, mano, yo no sé, la verdad, yo eso no. Yo digo que blanco, ¿no? ¿Qué? Ferney Hidalgo, ¿qué? ¿Cómo está? Ok, manito, ¿usted por quién va a votar? Yo la verdad no sé eso, man. Sé poco de la vuelta. Yo sí ando firme por la pate. ¿Quiere que le diga mi opinión real, Jarlix? Es que, mano, la verdad, eso casi no me gusta hablar, bro. Pero, mano, pues sí, ya tocar opinar. Pues primero que nada, que sea la voluntad de Dios, no, primero que se haga la voluntad de Dios y que sea el que le elija a nuestro dirigente y lo- que sea el que comande el país, ¿no? La vuelta. Yo, cuando ganó Petro, yo pensé que Petro tiene títulos de economista y esa vuelta, sí, ok. Entonces yo pensaba que Petro le iba a hacer bien en cuanto a eso. Yo decía, bueno, pues pueden que pasen cosas suaves, pero en cuanto a la economía, Colombia se va a parar duro. Mm, cosa que, mano, Colombia está muy detrás de Estados Unidos. Y Estados Unidos está también como embalado, bro, con la liga. Entonces, sí, la gente se pone contenta que porque el dólar ha bajado y toda la vuelta. Sí, pero la economía del país cada vez está peor. Y para mejorar la economía de un país requieren impuestos. Yo la verdad no sé, Raúl, ni idea de eso. Ojalá. Ya no, mentiras, no sé. Queda la voluntad del Señor, pero sí sabes. Entonces, de hecho, pues esos son datos públicos y pues cosas que se sabe, que es la deuda externa, que aumenta demasiado desde todo el gobierno de Petro. Es algo es que sí pilla, fue todo lo contrario a lo que yo esperaba de supuestamente un líder político que sabe de economía. Yo creo que se dejó llevar un poquito más de como de sus convicciones propias. Alice, ¿cómo estás? Que ya pues les dejo a su criterio cuáles son las convicciones propias de las convicciones de Petro, pero quizás, hey, el Demian, Tati, ahorita le dije algo y usted se fue, ¿eh? Sí, es como se pierden las relaciones. Andrea, ¿cómo estás? Y si quizás es curioso eso, mano, cómo dejó el país tan endeudado de un momento a otro. Me da vuelta, mano. Ve, ¿qué más a ti sí me he pensado? ¿Qué tal todo? Todo bien, mano. Me alegra, Demian. Que todo me le vaya excelente, mi hermanito. ¿Qué ha hecho, pues? ¿Ha vuelto a jugar futbolito? No, yo hace días no subo a jugar nada. Lo normal, todos los días. 24, 26 horas al día. Oye, no me volví a hablar. Con la socia que usted me comentaba, ¿se acuerda? Con Valentino, no volvió a hablar con Valentino, ¿con cuál? Sí, hermano, ya iniciamos el otro campeonato. Allá mismo. Ah, qué chimba, bien. ¿Y qué equipo paró? ¿Qué equipo paró el mismo? Chimba, no, esos campeonatos ya estaban letales. Para lo poquito que yo vi, uff, estaban buenos. No, y ahí en el barrio. Ay, penas. Sí, el mismo mano. Los campeones otra vez. A ver si la logran de nuevo. Muchas bendiciones de mí, que me les va muy bien de nuevo. Ahí con el Realeta. Y, y es así el mismo torneo, el mismo formato, o qué, o ha cambiado. Vamos por el bicampeonato. Ay, ay, ay. No, qué chimba el fútbol, lo que bien. Ojalá sigan grabando, mano, porque chimba. Chimba eso como quedan los goles y todo, ¿qué? Esos dos goles suyos fueron letales. El de Chile fue una chimba. El fútbol es lo mejor, hermano. No, el fútbol es realmente. Equipos del mundial. Ah, digo, no, ¿y cuáles escogieron ustedes? ¿Qué equipo tienen ustedes? José Rafael, ¿cómo estás? No, el fútbol es una chimba. Muchachos, ¿qué? ¿Cuál presidente? Ni que nada. Aguante la selección. Ay, güey, lo importante es cómo le vaya a Colombia. Nos tocó Colombia por... ¿Cómo? Ay, mano, estamos bendecidos. Estamos tocados por el Altísimo, Demian. Usted me da que campeón usted y que campeón Colombia. Eso nadie lo sabe, mano. Eso puede pasar, ¿sí me entiende? Todo es posible en este mundo, bro. Mano, yo me acuerdo, la mía cuántos años tenía acá en el Mundial de 2014. Qué rico donde ya dije, "Ah, no, mano, se acaba esto, bro. Eso es una locura. Sí, yo me acuerdo cuando esas clasificaciones, el Mundial allá en Fraile, uy, mano, eso era muy chimba. Yo creo que hasta usted llega a tirar harina por ahí, yo creo. ¿Cuántos años tenía? No me acuerdo del Demian, bro. Por ahí no. Yo me acuerdo que yo sí tiré harina de lo lindo. Todo se resolvió re loco. 12 añitos. No, pero entonces sí está usted también re loco, re feliz. Ah, no, la selección, mano, eso fue una chimba experiencia. ¿Cómo era ir a ver un partido de esos? Jorge Torres, ¿cómo estás? Obvio, mano, no, eso fue re loco, ¿qué? Cuando esa gonorrea de Falcao nos clasificó. Uy, quietos. Oye, mano, pero el gol de James, uy, yo me acuerdo de eso, mano, yo casi me infarto. Uy, no, mano, ese gol fue muy aleta, weón. Y eso era una parte importante porque era contra Uruguay. Uf, mano, ese gol, como dicen para tan. Uy, mano, qué chimba el fútbol, ¿verdad, mano? Y este mundial, ahorita hablaba con mi papá de eso, que este mundial, mano, van a ser meras figuras, no, mano, una cosa de locos. Háblamelo. Uy, llegaron dos Jorges, Jorge Torres y el Jorge Cuatri Extreme. Ey, siempre me sales, pero no entro nunca al live. No, tranquilo, Jorge. Igual en algún momento, no mentiras. Bienvenido cuando quiera entrar, bro. No sé si has escuchado lo que hacemos en este live, pero yo la verdad hablo aquí parchado, no sé. Lo que a mí más me gusta es la autenticidad en la vida y me gusta ser la persona que uno es con las personas y ya. Porque a veces yo creo que también lo he hecho, ¿no? Por eso yo creo que uno lo observa. Una ley de la vida es la ley del espejo y yo creo que eso es muy real, que lo que ves en las otras personas lo tienes tú primero. Y es que no me gusta por decir la irrealidad, por decir que yo lo trato usted aquí de una manera, estamos solos y sí, lo hago sentir bien. Pero resulta que mañana llego y estoy con Messi y con Cristiano Ronaldo y pasa usted y ya ni lo saludo ni lo volteo a mirar. Estoy con Messi y con Cristiano, bro, que va a necesitar de Jorge Torres. Pero sí, eso es asqueroso y triste porque sí es irrealidad. No digo que nunca lo he hecho porque, además que sí, pero quiero conscientemente no hacer eso en la vida, porque eso uno no es más que nadie, así uno tenga o no tenga, no sé, nadie es más que nadie, ¿me entiende? Nadie es más ni menos que nadie. ¿Cuáles? Esa es la vuelta. XD. Uy, hace tiempo no veía un XD, man. ¿Qué es lo que significa XD? Yo la verdad, XD, bro, yo la verdad cuando dicen XD quedo re XD, quedo como, nunca lo entendí. Una vez me lo explicaron, pero igual no me quedó claro el concepto. Nada, XD. No, no tiene un significado. XD es como XD. No, qué vuelta. Internet es una locura. Soy millennial, perdón. ¿Millennial es qué? ¿De cuándo? Y el panty para la oler de nuevo, ella probó. Me gustó, me seduce. Y lo invito a que me sigan en Instagram. Acabo de subir unas historias ricas, ricas. Una cosa de locos. Puedes llamar si me necesitas. Y también que me sigan Instagram es importante porque a la gente le importan mucho los seguidores de Instagram, bro. Antes de 1997. Ok. Tú eres de la época de cuando empezó Internet, o sea que tú eras ahí, tenías por ahí de entre 15 y 20 años. Rica es sin camisa. Sígame, Jorge. Sígame. Te invito a que me siga. Ayuda de Dios, vamos a discernir excelentemente.
It's harder to get rich than it's ever been. And it's also easier to get rich than it's ever been. The reason it's harder is because in the 1980s or 1990s, it was basic consumer capitalism. For you to get rich, you had to sell a product. You'd open
¿Ustedes
a
qué opinan
liquor
de Andrew
store.
Tate?
Excuse me, sir. Sir.
A mí me gustan mucho sus videos de este muchacho.
So for you, how old were you when you became a millionaire? Oh, where did you get that? You own an NBA team, don't you? I do. What team do you own? Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah. How'd you get the money to buy an NBA team? Selling Jet.com to Walmart for 3.3 billion. Can I interview you for a minute? I go all over the world interviewing billionaires to help the younger generation. Yeah. Can you tell me a crazy business story? Crazy business story. I remember my first company sitting with one of the investors, and the investor said, "You're a young guy. You put 390,000 in this company. That's like a huge investment." He said, "I have only one question. Why did you put 390,000, not 400,000?" I said, "Oh, that's all I had. It has to work. It has to work. It's billions of body bags." You think everybody's built for entrepreneurship? Everyone is definitely not built for entrepreneurship. Being an entrepreneur is
Marica, la jugó durísimo. Que invirtió en una compañía $390.000. Y que le dijeron, chico, ¿por qué invertiste 390 y no 400? Dijo que era todo lo que tenía. ¿Eres profe de inglés? Ay, Jorge, te invito a que me sigas. Por aquí yo le meto al inglés. Pues hay gente que llega y comparte en inglés y así, entonces le metemos. Jorge, ¿pero por qué no me sigues? ¿Qué es lo que pasa? ¿Qué es lo que está generando resistencia entre tú y yo? ¿Qué es lo que está generando aquí como esa poca, como esa conexión? No entiendo. Porque si no me siguen en TikTok, mano, compleja que me sigan en Instagram. No confío. Y triste. Pero bueno, bueno, ya. ¿Ya que Ah, bueno, así es. No le pague, muchas gracias por apoyarme. Y me va a seguir en Instagram. Bueno, es que la verdad, mi Instagram está muy sabroso. Está tan sabroso, bro, que usted sería el seguidor. Un seguidor de un múltiplo redondo, bro, donde me siga. Imagínese pues. Para que tenga usted, tiene que ir a mi perfil. En mi perfil creo que está el link directo, pan. O bueno, yo lo puedo editar. Sebastián.ruiz11. La bestia de bestias, la cabra de cabras. Eso no aparece ahí, pero eso está ahí. Solo que es que eso es invisible. Eso solo, eso solo lo pueden ver Los Ángeles, bro.
Estamos manejando esta buceta, ¿sí o no? Es- Se la ahorra por lo menos, abuelo.
El profeta. Ice, Ice. ¿Qué dice pues el Oscar? No, no, no digas sabroso. Seguido. Maer. Sabiendo, estoy refrescando. Ice. Aó, aó. Estoy refrescando y no refresca. O uno que le dice a, Ospi, uno que le dice a una mujer cuando está toda rara. Ospi. Cuando está como contestando maluco, tal. Yo la verdad no le quise contestar. Le di un like a su mensaje. Pero entonces ella lo que hizo también fue darle un like a un mensaje que yo le había mandado antes. Así, un corazón le dio. ¿Qué hago? No le hablo más. Mañana.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse what? Los tapones de espuma que estás usando. Fun when you're fighting. The most powerful energy in the universe of human being is the authenticity, it's the creation. Because when you're authentic, you create. This connects straight to God, because God's the creator, right? If you
Vean las
scared
mujeres.
of fear,
No, las
so
mujeres son
energy
lo
is so
mejor del
powerful.
mundo, parce, lo
When you
bien.
relax and you flow,
Yo no sé qué vamos a hacer, no sé qué vamos a
things
hacer.
just happen. The
Ay,
creator is
señor.
pitching Coca-Cola. ¿Quieres?
Después de Dios están las mujeres. Uy, no. Ya, el prójimo, pues, que ahí también están incluidas ellas. Ey, no, no. Ey, no, no aprendan eso de mí. Hay que dejar de darle tanto foco a las mujeres. Parchadas, la vida tiene muchas más cosas. Que esas son deliciosas, sí, sí, sí se entiende. Para qué parcharse. Ay, qué difícil parchar. Uy, esas mujeres se ponen muy lindas a veces, ¿cierto? Que Dios las bendiga todas y las proteja de todo mal y peligro. Ella probó, le gustó. Yo no sé qué ver, bro. No sé qué ver en estos momentos. Para parcharme aquí en el live, pero algo pondré ya mismo. Para comer y parchar. Ella probó, le gustó. El amor es una magia. Recomendación, mano. ¿Qué recomendación quieres darme? Uy, bueno, es que hace esto antes de la Tercera Guerra Mundial. Hay que verlo. Si Dios lo puso fue por algo en mi camino. Que para ser
Ahora,
retruco.
hay meses me gradué como
Ah, bueno, se no están viendo conmigo, ya les pongo la pantallita. Sóbelo, sóbelo con restrieguelo. El amor es una magia. ¿O qué? ¿O no? No. Ah, dañaste la magia, bro. Bro, bro. El amor es una magia. Bro, no puedes decir que no, tienes que decir que sí. Tienes que tirar polvo de haz aquí. Ahí, no. Pero, uff, tiene resto de videos como de gente hablando de experiencias. ¿Quién, Jorge? No alcancé a ver. Ah, ok. Este canal, YouTube, la Bible Stories. Ay, mano, yo creo que eso es un contenido muy pesado para mí, pero bueno. Dios, yo creo que ya me está poniendo en el rumbo de eso. Que metele, bro. Así como usted dijo que el amor no era una magia. No es una magia. Uy, bueno, realeta.
so I started pouring it. So close the lips. Right? And still feel it running down my body and looked at him and lit one. And I instantly regretted my decision. I smelled my hair burning. I tasted the gas. I could smell my skin. And I crouched down, put my covered my eyes and screamed out, "Put me out." So I started pouring again. So close the lips. Burn.
Uy, mano, uy, mano. Parece bestial. Parece bestial, bendísimo Señor, protégelo, protégelo. Uy, no, mano, me dejaste hecho eco, mano. Uf, 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 mano. Uy, no, manito, estos días están muy gonorreas, viejo. ¿Usted qué me puso a ver, bro? Ay, mano. No, mano, la verdad, esos videos son geniales, weón. Uy, no. Cualquier, uy, no, mano, está muy, uy, no, mano. Se habla en español.
And maximum security.
Ay, bueno, no, manito, vamos a ver unas bichimba videos. Hey, gracias, bro, por comentarme
Ended up
ese
getting
contenido. Vamos a ver, pues, el primero este. Bueno, bueno, no este. Chin, se pone contento el Sebas viendo videitos.
ended up getting in maximum security. And the riot popped off right 2 weeks when I was in there. There was 14 people killed. The main boss was decapitated.
The Bluetooth device
They were
is
playing
ready
basketball
to pair.
with his head.
Bluetooth device is connected successfully.
Born in the state of Guerrero in Mexico. I was taken to the U.S. a year and a half. I worked in Southern California, in LA, Compton. A normal,
Cuando háblalo.
you could say, American childhood around gangs, and all that good stuff that grew up as a kid. Living in South Central Compton, Firestone region, it's very hectic. Growing up, you have to be careful where you're walking, what colors you're wearing, because obviously there's a lot of mugging going on, uh, theft, Grand Theft Auto, uh, gangbang shootouts. So
Bro,
it's
si estás...
you're under.
Una pregunta, ¿tú estás escuchando o no, Jorge? Que yo puse el sonido en el baffle, no sé si escuchas. Me lo voy a llevar allí y me dice si se escucha o no.
A lot of stress. The majority of the time.
How did it kind of happen with people in the military?
The circumstances of why my father went to prison that that pushed me
It
towards
hurts.
gangs, towards
It hurts even I drag the sound to the other part. It hurts good or not?
many crimes. In a way, looking for a way out. So my father basically he raped my sister when we were young.
Ok, thanks.
The stress of seeing that,
Y se escucha bien el audio de él. Cuando yo hablo no se escucha por encima de la voz de él, se escucha bien.
obligated me
¿O
to try
no?
to kill him. Stabbed my dad a couple times. Obviously, I was barely 12. Um, so I think that's the main reason why I was trying to just get out of my own world because of the destruction that my own father had done. My father ended up doing 16 years in Avenal State Prison. Left us when we were really young. My mom being Mexican and not being able to speak the language because it's not easy living in a country where you don't even know the language and not having any help from any family member. So that was what pushed me into crime, into gangbanging, into hustling for money.
What kind of crime was it first, and how did it progress?
First, it was home invasions, theft, normal petty theft. Then it moved on to moving certain amounts of drugs to different counties, depending on where the person that was in charge of the game wanted you to move them. Anything to gun crime.
How old were you then?
Aleta.
14, 15. When you're in gangs, you know the heat that you're gonna get yourself involved. Um, it's a lot of racial fighting going in because at the same time it's Mexicans against Mexicans and or other Hispanic gangs. They kill one of yours, you go looking for one of them. That's how I ended up as a gunslinger or a hitman, however you guys want to call it, sicario. That's how I got involved in gun crimes. At that age, I was still young and stupid. Um, that age, that's how I got involved in gun crimes. At that age, I was still young and stupid. Um, that's when I decided that you know what,
God bless my bro for don't treat him, for don't treat himself that type of badly. God bless you too, George, for showing me this type of content.
try some luck in Mexico and try to get away from gangs, get away from the violence without really understanding what violence was. I myself took the decision of going back to Mexico, trying to find something better for me in itself. Uh, at the age of 17 was when I decided to go back to Mexico. Obviously, it's not the same thing.
XD. Yeah, bro. God bless you, my bro. Hey, Gio, ¿cómo estás? God bless you. Thank you for showing me this content. I wish I'd see you later, other day. God bless you, my bro. Tomorrow I will do live at 7 p.m. if God permit me. Goodbye. See you later. Julie, ¿cómo estás? Suave. Sure. Le es que suave. Y es sure. A ver, amigo, lo que es Hanses. Ella probó. Le gustó.
Culture differences. I was raised with Chicanos, Mexican Americans that spoke English, that spoke Spanish. Going back to Mexico, where there's only Spanish-speaking people, the culture is different. You know, it's a little bit harder to involve yourself in society. So you're always looking out for people that look like you, that speak like you, and that act like you. That's how I ended up in Mexico.
So what was it like in Mexico?
Uh, it's a whole different world, and the violence that the human being is able to to do is really unthinkable. You know, basically they were doing worse things that we could never imagine in a first world country, and it's more because of poverty. You know, of not trying to become something of themselves, making a name for themselves. Cartel de Sinaloa was is one of the biggest ones in Mexico. Went to Sonora and I worked in Sinaloa primero, and worked in Morelos as well for, for another organization called La Familia Michoacana.
And what does a hitman at a Mexican cartel do?
When you take care of the dirty groups towards the U.S., they're always fighting for the how can I say this for the permission of extortioning and stealing from the rich in whatever state they're in, mm, and fighting the enemies. And that means going into cities and locating these rival hitmen, these rival people or rival drug lords, and taking them out. You have to understand that the cartels there's two branches: the ones that traffic the drugs and the military side of the cartel as well. So I went to a location once for the Familia Michoacana. They had 5 tons of cocaine. They also had a
Dios mío.
what do you call it? How do you say it? Laboratorio, laboratory of methamphetamine. I've never been towards that side of moving drugs or anything like that. Because obviously you're talking about high quantities of drugs. I was more addicted to adrenaline, of what I can do with the rifle, what I can do with the pistol. So when you're working as a sicario, obviously there's rules that you cannot pass if you want to keep yourself alive. Because it's a very dangerous game, uh, and that was something that was taught to me since the beginning. Never get high with anything that they move in order for you to keep yourself on guard and on point on what you're doing. There's cartels that actually they pay their people with drugs, especially cartels that use methamphetamine. Um, Obviously, there's people out there that will get themselves in debt with the cartel or with a drug dealer. They have no way to paying their debt, and they get pulled in by force. You know, and they maintain them with crystal meth, with cocaine. Obviously, the people that would do drugs, you would see them lasting 3 months, 2 months. They would end up getting murdered. So for us as sicarios, it'd be something easy to spot the enemy sometimes because of their drug use, because of the way that they would act in under stress or under pressure from the cartels or from the government. I think it's just more like they're using them as, how do you say it, um, cattle for the slaughter. If you're a professional, you know that what you do is just put two in the chest and one in the head. That's it. It's better to have them dead than to have them to have evidence where the government will be able to incriminate you. They think they're debt with a drug dealer that will get themselves in debt with the cartel or with a drug dealer. They have no way to paying their debt, and they get pulled in by force, and they maintain them with crystal meth, with cocaine. Obviously, the people that would do drugs, you would see them lasting 3 months, 2 months. They would end up getting murdered. So for us as sicarios, it'd be something easy to spot the enemy sometimes because of their drug use, because of the way that they would act in under stress or under pressure from the cartels or from the government. I think it's just more like they're using them as, let me see it, um, cattle for the slaughter. If you're a professional, you know that what you do is you just put two in the chest and one in the head. That's it. It's better to have them dead than to have them to have evidence where the government will be able to incriminate you.
Do you feel like in Mexico, if you want to kind of earn money, you have little choice but to get involved with the cartel?
You can say in a way it is, because obviously a lot of the people that I met in the cartels, they didn't even finish their primary school, because they didn't have the resources to look for a better education. In a part it is, in a part it's not. It's more about the influence that society gives them, the type of music that they hear, what they see on TV. That's what they feel inspired to be like that. And when in reality they have no idea what that life is all about.
Were you ever scared for your life?
Every day, that's how you live. Anybody that says that they're not scared of that type of life is probably lying. I think being scared is very important in order for you to keep yourself alive. Every time that I would get close to somebody, that person would get murdered, and it was just a circle that was not ending. So when talking to people that are in this environment, and when talking to people that think that they're gangsters or they're about that life, you can tell right away if they're lying or not just by asking them what kind of weapon they use. So you can tell when someone is an expert, and you can tell when someone is just bluffing on what they're saying. We have a saying, and it was every time scared is very important in order for you to keep yourself alive. Every time that I would get close to somebody, that person would get murdered, and it was just a circle that was not ending. So when talking to people that are in this environment, and when talking to people that think that they're gangsters or they're about that life, you can tell right away if they're lying or not just by asking them what kind of weapon they use. So you can tell when someone is or not just by asking them what kind of weapon they use. So you can tell when someone is an expert, and you can tell when someone is just bluffing on what they're saying. We have a saying, los huevos te llevan a la destrucción. Balls, your balls as a man will get you killed right away. So you have to use the intelligence, and you have to use your balls, because obviously that's what it is. You can't just be running around there thinking you're the biggest and the baddest, because there's always going to be someone bigger or better than you. It's just bluffing on what they're saying. We have a saying, los huevos te llevan a la destrucción. Balls, your balls as a man will get you killed right away. So you have to use the intelligence, and you have to use your balls, because obviously that's what it is. You can't just be running around there thinking you're the biggest and the baddest, because there's always going to be someone bigger or better than you.
With police connected to.
Yeah, definitely. Local police are 100%. State police, you could say 50-50. It's basically the same law that Pablo Escobar told the government. It's plata o plomo, It's Pablo Escobar told the government. It's plata o plomo, It's money or lead, whichever one you want.
Yo voy a tener más plata que Pablo Escobar.
There's certain cartels that don't really give them the option of giving
Yo tengo más plata que Pablo Escobar.
them money. They rather give them lead and go to war. It's plata o plomo, ¿no? It's money or lead,
No pregunte
whichever
dónde,
you want.
Valentina.
So
Calladita pues, hágame su favor. Calma.
there's certain cartels that don't really give them the option of giving them money. They rather give them lead and go to war. Because obviously it's more like a guerrilla type war, and whatever they can acquire from those state government, that means rifles, that means life jackets,
Bienvenidos,
that
¿cómo
means
están?
whatever they can take off their dead bodies, they'll take, then rather than give them any money to bribe them.
What was the most violent thing you've seen?
I've seen a lot of violent things, and I would have to say this time they was a time where they picked up like around 12, 15 people. Not all of them were enemies. You know, sometimes you're in the wrong moment at the wrong time, and for hanging around with the wrong crowd, you get involved in. There
Bueno,
was
yo me tengo que acostar.
there was
Pero ese
women
video
as
está muy
and
chill.
men. I didn't take part. I was
Estos son unos videos que me acaba de recomendar una persona aquí que está conmigo. Se llaman, mire, por sus propios ojos, LAD Bile Esteries. El más impactante que vi fue una mujer que era como adicta. Uy, no sé, mano. La verdad es que me dejó como demasiado impactado. Lo voy a ver de nuevo.
I started pouring gas over myself. I could taste the gas burning my eyes. So I started pouring gas over myself. I could taste the gas burning my eyes.
No sé qué tipo de adicción tendría esta mujer, pero el caso es que como que se sintió ella misma. Uy, no, manito, Dios nos bendiga. Que Dios nos bendiga porque nadie está excepto de esto. Las drogas son algo que está en la sociedad y nadie está libre de eso. Hay que orar mucho y estar de la mano de Dios. Y miren, ahí me fueron, mujeres que son adictas a los hombres, ¿o qué? Adictas a mí.
But still, I feel it running down my body and looked at him and lived life. And I instantly regretted my decision. I smelled my hair burning. I tasted the gas. I could smell my skin. And I crouched down, put my covered my eyes and screamed out to put me out. So I started pouring gas over myself. And I could taste the gas. It was burning.
Uy, no, está muy fuerte. Se la vi un apostador, How I Gamble Millions.
y apostarlo todo a una apuesta, a un caballo, en una carrera, la Cheltenham Gold Cup en marzo de
No
2018.
eres loro. Están tan buenas que en ningún lado hacen feel up. I decided to gamble all to a one horse. But that's what he may say. That man say. I'm not, because I'm not a gambler.
I decided to put it all on one bet, one horse in one horse race, the Cheltenham Gold Cup in March 2018. And if that horse won, I would have won that money back. I had the intention to pay everybody back. If it didn't win, it had literally become a matter of life and death, and I was going to go and kill myself.
Ay,
It's one of those people that from a young age I was obsessed with all sports. I didn't really care what I played as long as I was playing something. And it was all I was bothered about, really. It was all I wanted to do. And then it wasn't until I was 15 when kind of professional clubs started to take an interest in me, and I got put on the academy at Northamptonshire. That's when I thought, okay, this is really something that might happen.
You eventually ended up going to Durham University to play cricket there and study, of course.
Yeah, so I was playing full time professionally after I left school. So I arrived at Durham in October 2006. Year left on a contract at Northamptonshire,
and life was pretty perfect. At that point in my life, I'd never placed a bet. I didn't know much about gambling at all. It wasn't something that anybody in my family did. None of my friends did. Didn't have the same kind of access and exposure that you do now. And a few of the guys that I kind of got in with early on, they were into it. It was something that they did. And one Saturday morning, we walked into a betting shop in the middle of Durham, sat down in the bucket chair in front of the machine. I had £2 in my pocket left over from the night before, and being an overconfident, arrogant, slightly naive 19-year-old boy that was at the time, I put my £2 in the machine. I put it on the only number that was different from all the others, green zero. It was the last number to come up, and I thought, what are the chance of it happening twice in a row? And 12 seconds later, £2 became £72, and my life changed forever. And that was my first bet. I always
Lo
say to
peor es ganar,
people,
muchacho.
I
¿Sabes
can't
que
explain the
eso es lo
feeling it
peor?
gave me because I'd never had it before, and weirdly, I'd never have it again. Yeah, it gave me like a rush and buzz like nothing else. And people talk about drugs. That was definitely my drug.
And how did the habit kind of progress from this point onwards?
I guess I was different to most people at university because I had a lot more money than most people because I was being paid to play cricket. I had a student loan like everybody else, a generous mum and dad. So I did have more money, and I thought to myself, well, I can still afford to do what everybody else is doing. So who cares if I lose a bit gambling? The only thing about it from an early stage was it started to take up more and more of my time, and I wasn't always kind of totally honest about how much I was doing it. I'd go with my mates, there'd be a transparency around that, but then I'd also go 2 or 3 times other points during the day on my own when they didn't realize. Whilst I was at uni in 2007, my cricket career ended, and I found that really difficult. That moment was tough. It hit me really hard, and I started to gamble more and more because I had the money, the time. It actually replaced sport in many ways. And then when I moved to London, it was a huge turning point because I'd moved to London, I think, for the wrong reasons in many ways, because I'd kind of followed the crowd because I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life if I wasn't playing sport. And it was what all my mates were doing. I thought it's the done thing to move to London, to work in finance, to try and earn as much cash as you possibly can. And a big change in my kind of mindset was I was previously motivated very much by sort of success and achievement, and now I was only bothered about money. And I think that was partly because I was gambling, but also because that was the culture and environment that surrounded me. It was what kind of made people tick in that world. And so actually, all I wanted was as much money as I possibly could.
What was the biggest amount you won during this time period?
Having kind of received some good news at work, being told that I was getting a promotion, a bit of a pay rise, a Christmas bonus, all those things you kind of crave as somebody in that world. I went out with my mates to celebrate that night. Before I met up with my mates, I walked into the shop, and I put the biggest bet on I'd put on to that point. It was a football accumulator. There were 6 matches, and 2 of the matches there had to be a draw. 3 of the matches, both teams had to score, and one of the favourites had to lose. I put £500 on this bet. I walked upstairs. I started getting drunk, with my mates, and that night £500 became £34,968. And that was the biggest single win that I'd had and ever would have. From that moment onwards, not only did I kind of feel like I was totally invincible, I thought it would happen every time I did it. When it doesn't, well, it doesn't matter, it's bound to happen again at some point. But actually, the worst thing about it was that was when it became like a drug, because now if I didn't win that amount of money, it didn't give me the same rush buzz hit, just like a drug, and I wanted that every time I did it. So I started to put more and more every time I bet, bigger stakes. So I'd keep doing it, but also I started to feel guilty, embarrassed, ashamed, stupid, emotions that I wasn't used to dealing with. And I started to combat those by drinking even more alcohol, taking drugs, and life just started to spiral in a very, very different direction. I never told a single person in the world that I won that money that night. That was pretty hard. but I also lost it in a few weeks. And when it was gone, I went back, started trying to win it back. And then once I lost that money, I started to get into debt. And I guess over a short period of time, that changed completely. Nature of my job was kind of walking from the office to the Lloyd's building. Um, Historically, I would, on the way there, I'd stop, go into the shop for 15 minutes and have a bet. That now became times where I'd be in there for maybe 3, 4 hours. I wouldn't do what I was supposed to do. I'd then make up a lie about what had happened, and rather than that happening kind of once a week, it started to happen 3, 4 times a week to every day. By that point, I had 4 bank loans, I had 5 credit cards, I'd missed a couple of months rent payments, and financial situation was starting to become pretty dire, to tell the truth. I was starting to really struggle with my mental health, although I didn't want to tell anybody about that, of course. But yeah, financially, it wasn't great. But if at that point I'd stopped, it wouldn't have been as bad as it ended up being, that's for sure. I'd put on about 3.5 stone. I had all this debt, and I thought, what on earth are you doing? I decided to try and do something about it and leave London. At first, when I first became a teacher, I felt that that was the moment that gave me the opportunity to stop, and I tried. And whilst I still did it, I wasn't doing it all day, every day. And I thought I'd crack this problem. But then when the first set of holidays came along, things started to go wrong in my life. I just started to do it more and more. And eventually, um, I would probably spend 75% of my day gambling because I could do it on my phone. There's always a reason to be on your phone. People thought I was on WhatsApp, social media, emails, all those things that people are, but I was just gambling. Um, and so it meant I could do it whilst I was teaching. It meant I could do it whilst I was doing whatever else. And I just did it all day, every day. That's not an exaggeration. It just completely consumed everything. The salary I got paid would usually last the first or second day of each month. And then I'd think, well, how on earth am I going to pay off my debts, my bills, carry on gambling, live, afford anything? I turned to payday loans. I had 23 different bank and payday loans. And then I guess all those kind of avenues had been exhausted. And it was at that point that I started turning to individuals. And eventually, out of desperation, I'd make decisions at work that I'd regret forever because I would start to abuse my position as a teacher. I worked in a private school. I wasn't stupid. I knew how wealthy some of these people were, had access to that information, and I started to take advantage of it and lie to them. So I'd borrow money off parents of pupils that I taught. I lied to them why I needed the money. They liked, respected me, were worried about me. They had the money to lend me. Um, I promised to pay them back. I didn't pay a penny back. I'd gamble it all away. And when it all came to a head, it transpired that there were 113 different individual people that I'd borrowed money off, ranging from about 75 quid, which doesn't sound too bad, up to the best part of £30,000. And I had £500,000 worth of pure gambling debt, that obviously now I'm spending the rest of my life paying back. And it started to take its toll. Living this double life was exhausting. And I actually knew in my heart of hearts it wasn't sustainable. There was no way I could kind of keep up this pretense. Essentially, the school that I was working at became aware of the scale and the extent of the problem because they'd received complaints from all sorts of different people. And they'd kind of opened up an investigation. And at that point, I knew the consequences were going to be as bad as they could be. I knew that I was going to lose my house. I knew I was probably going to lose my job. There's no way I could carry on being a teacher there or anywhere else. And I knew I was potentially facing kind of criminal conviction. I might go to prison because I knew that I'd been kind of forging signatures on contracts, all sorts of different things. And after kind of receiving that news, I borrowed a sum of money off somebody I'd already borrowed money from, told them a lie I'm not very proud of. I said, look, I desperately need £10,000, but I promise I'll pay you back at the end of the week. And that's because completely coincidentally, it was the start of the Cheltenham Horse Racing Festival, the biggest festival of the year, my biggest week of the year. And I honestly believed I could turn £10,000 into 500,000. So I put on a series of kind of speculative bets that not even I thought had a chance. And I had one bit of luck on the Thursday that will never ever happen again, when one jockey and trainer won pretty much every race. And the £10,000 that I had started with was suddenly £58,000. I decided to put it all on one bet, one horse in one horse race, Cheltenham Gold Cup in March 2018. And if that horse won, I would have won that money back. I had the intention to pay everybody back. Yes, I probably still would have lost my house and my job, but at least I could have paid everyone back and my life could continue. But if it didn't win, it had literally become a matter of life and death, and I was going to go and kill myself. And I watched that horse race in a lesson. I had kids sat in front of me doing work. I watched a horse lose by a few lengths, and my whole world came crashing down.
Did you reach out to anyone for help at this point?
I'd always seen a way out, and at that point, there was no way out as far as I was concerned. I tried to essentially drink myself into submission, take an overdose of antidepressants, sleeping pills. I even tried to drive my car off the road in a kind of 48-hour period before eventually arriving at a train station, and was on the verge of doing the unthinkable. I was in floods of tears. I had commuters all around me, a lot of them kind of looking at me, some of them laughing at me, thinking, what's wrong with that bloke? As I was stood there in a complete mess in floods of tears. But actually, I didn't care because I felt real. The only person I could bring myself to tell in a way that I felt was right was my best mate in the world, and that's my little brother. I didn't want to call him. I didn't want him to be in the state that I was in, because I think he might have reacted differently if he'd heard that. So instead of calling him, I sent him a message. I told him what I was about to do. And fortunately for me, having tried to call me, he then sent me a message, and that message saved my life. He said, look, tell me what the problem is, talk to me about it, and I promise I'll try and help. And as simple as it sounds, that's what I needed to hear, and it's what stopped me doing it. I took myself home. I came clean to my girlfriend initially, and then my parents, and that was so tough. But I think one of the things that I reflect on more than anything else is that their reaction was so different to how I thought it was going to be, how I'd played it in my head for the last however many years. They didn't disown me, they didn't go mad. They recognized I had a problem. They were glad I was still here and that I needed help. I was admitted to rehab, for want of a better term. I went to treatment on Harley Street in London. And those few weeks, months were really, really tough. I, like a lot of people, wanted a quick fix. I thought, oh, I'll go in there, I'll get treated, I'll walk out and I'll be cured. But actually, I had to learn pretty quickly that this was something that doesn't just go away. It's something that I manage essentially for the rest of my life. The process was tough. I had to sort of come clean to people, and having some of those conversations, particularly with people that I owed ludicrous amounts of money to, and had to admit that everything I told them was complete rubbish, and that actually it was gambling, was so hard. But people have been a lot quicker to forgive me than I think I'll ever forgive myself.
Did you kind of figure out how much money you did spend on gambling over how many years?
Yeah, I had to I had to go back through messages, emails, bank statements, gambling accounts. I think it transpires that over the course of those 12 and a half years, I'd transacted about £2 million worth of bets online, which was frightening in itself. The volume of bets, the amount of bets I was placing every day was mad. I had 76 different online accounts opened up in 65 different people's names. So just the the sheer scale of everything was just way beyond what even I thought it was, and in my head it was pretty big. Ultimately, nobody should go through what I did, and I often say to people I'm one of the lucky ones because I'm still here. Too many lives are lost to gambling every year, and that just can't happen.
And you now do a lot of campaign work to help people struggling with addiction. What does it entail?
So I now work full time for a kind of organisation that specialise in education and prevention. We use our lived experience to try and raise awareness of the problem, educate people about the dangers and pitfalls, reduce the stigma, help people kind of spot signs in themselves and other people.
Do you have any advice you'd like to give to someone who thinks they might be addicted to gambling?
Understand that it's very easy to lose control very quickly. And the sooner you can recognize that you've lost control and do something about it, the better. I have an issue with the fact that gambling is so ingrained in culture and society and yet still a bit of a dirty word. It's still something that people don't talk openly about. People only ever talk about when they win, never when they lose. It's often something that people almost feel ashamed to admit that they do. I think I would have found it much easier to talk about a problem with drugs and alcohol and gambling. That in itself is not right. So reaching out for help is tough, but tell someone it would be the best thing you ever do. One of the things I had to learn over and above everything else was that it was about managing this for the rest of my life. And I now am able to do that every day that goes past. I feel like I'm further away from a vet, which can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I met up with someone I knew. I'm not going to say friend, like an associate. A substance that I guess straight away was heroin was put on the foil, and I was shown how to smoke that.
Disculpa que están pegados y luego pues comentan. Eso es mala. Eso ya esta señora.
And I had a period of like nearly 3 months where I was on my own and I was celibate, and that was really hard. Like, you wouldn't think that something like that would affect you, just from not having sex, but I was just crying all the time. I felt really suicidal. I didn't have, you know, just anything to take that pain away. My childhood was, I'd say, quite hard in a lot of ways. My mum was a single parent. She was a great mom and everything like that. Just doing her best. But my dad was too ill to work and things, so she did everything on her own. My dad had, well, he still has schizophrenia, so he was in and out of psychiatric hospital. And yeah, he like tried to kill himself a couple of times. I mean, when I look back now, I think that's probably where like my insecurities and like low self-esteem come from, possibly. Unconsciously, you just think, well, what's wrong with me?
How old were you when you think you started to become aware?
He tried to kill himself a couple of times. I mean, when I look back now, I think that's probably where like my insecurities and like low self-esteem come from, possibly. Unconsciously, you just think, well, what's wrong with me?
How old were you when you think you started to become aware of your dad's schizophrenia?
I always knew really, because he was in and out of hospital from when him and my mum divorced and stuff like that. So yeah, I always knew because he'd like, talk to himself a lot and was really paranoid and jealous and things like that. I didn't grow up getting that love I needed from my dad, even though he loved me and I loved him. It wasn't the, I suppose, secure, protective love that you, as I guess, need as a child. And I think I found a way early to, I think I knew really early that I had like that women had a sexual, like it was something men responded to, you know. I mean, I lost my virginity really early. I was like 12, so obviously that was quite young. I think that kind of sexualized me at a young age, if you know what I mean. So I think I saw that, that's something that men like. And I just think I just realized that early and I just kept capitalizing on it, if you know what I mean, because it made me feel in control and like I had power over something instead of feeling powerless, if that makes sense.
And would you say, was it about the age of 12 that you started to become aware of your
I
sexuality?
think it was younger than that, I really do, if I'm honest. 8 or 9 or something like that, probably. I got bullied at school around that time when I was starting to become sexual. I guess because I was sexual before everyone else, people didn't, I don't know, like people called me a slag and things like that and got bullied really badly at school.
How did your relationship with your sexuality progress from that point?
Yeah, it just went, I guess, more and more extreme as
El
time went on,
bendecido.
if that
Llegó al
makes
lugar que era el
sense. Just
bendecido.
I knew
¿Cómo
that there
estás?
was something not right with me because I just had sex with so many more people than like, all my friends and things like that. I think I was just looking for that so many more people than like all my
Mano, no.
friends and things like that. I think I was just looking for that connection. I think that's what a lot of addiction is just you're just trying to find that connection with that real connection, suppose that you're just craving.
And did you have relationships in these years at school?
Yeah, I had a boyfriend at one point. I always had like relationships. I think I found it hard to be on my own, but then very on-off relationships, very unstable relationships. So I'd be in a relationship, then would split up, and then I'd go on like a massive spree of just like having sex with loads of people and get back together and that kind of thing. One thing I always was is honourable, I think.
At what point do you think you started to realize that perhaps you had an unhealthy relationship with sex?
Um, I mean, when I was younger, it was just really fun, and it was really fun at first. I loved it. I was just going and doing loads of crazy things and having loads of new experiences, and that side of it was really fun. And in the beginning, like it always is, I suppose, with every addiction, um, I knew it's the attracting. I think bad, people. I think that's when I knew because. I mean, my life was a bit out of control anyway. I was happy with it in my 20s because I didn't have any responsibilities. But then I got pregnant with my first son. Like, I just instantly fell in love with him. And I think that's the only time that I've been truly, truly happy for the first 7 and a bit weeks of having him. But then he passed away. So that was
Juan Pablo, ¿cómo estás, Violeta? El amor de un hijo, lo que puede generar.
very hard because I think after that is when I think I noticed my addiction got quite bad. I mean, I got diagnosed with PTSD after that anyway. Um, yeah, because he was in my arms when he died and stuff like that, and um, so yeah, so after that, like it just life was pretty bad for a long time. I think that's when I really started to like get really codependent, and try and tried to reach out for just, yeah, relationships. And then I went on loads of, sex binges again.
After you lost your son, at its worst point, how many times a week were you having sex? How many different?
A lot. I don't know. Mm, like 20, something like that. Yeah, like in a week. It wasn't necessarily the sex that was the most like damaging thing, because I was always pretty careful in terms of protection and things like that. I was quite smart. Always pretty the most like damaging thing, because I was always pretty careful in terms of protection and things like that. I was quite smart in that way, I suppose. It was more the codependency side of it. I think that's what ultimately is behind it, is you're dependent on other people, but then you don't want that commitment at the same time. So like if you have sex with different people, you don't have to get too close. You don't want people to get too close, but then you're so scared of being alone. And I think like if you're not getting that attention all the time, that's like your fix, if you know what I mean. Like you need other people to tell you that you're alright, you don't feel it yourself. If you choose people who aren't right for you, then I don't know, you don't have to commit yourself. I think that's ultimately what's at the core of it. I think it's you're scared to let yourself be vulnerable and love properly and be loved, because you don't feel like you deserve it.
How was your emotional well-being?
Yeah, really. Just up and down like all the time. I mean, I've been diagnosed with BPD as well, which can cause ups and downs and volatile relationships. And I think a lot of people who have sex addiction, love addiction, is what BPD, I would say. If you sense a relationship and you could to do as well, I don't know, like suicidal behaviours. Suicidal behaviours is a thing as well. Or even thinking about suicide a lot, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's I would say that most people who have this addiction to alcohol, if you know,
Did you feel any emotions of guilt or shame around?
yeah, because I've put myself in dangerous situations and situations that I don't, didn't want to have sex with certain people and still did, and things like that.
Were you honest with the people in your life what you're going through?
I think people in my life now, yeah, I think they do. Um, I've always been honest with my mom and things like that, and she accepts me for who I am and things. When I used to go to the addict groups, there were lots of people who were hiding lots of things, and I think that's quite common. But I think because I've always been quite a brazen person anyway, do you know, who puts herself out there. I think because I've been like that for so long, just I didn't really feel like I needed to hide anything.
What do you think addiction is?
It's a powerlessness, isn't it? And I think a feeling of you don't deserve to be happy sometimes. I think that's underlying sometimes. And also I
Bueno, yo
think
me
there's
siento, bro, que
an element of like punishing yourself as well.
You mentioned your father at the beginning. I suppose at this point you're still searching for something in a relationship.
I think that's ultimately what we're doing for the rest of our adult lives, is trying to heal those wounds from childhood. And I think relationships give us an opportunity to do that.
For how many years do you think that this kind of addiction was consuming a lot of your life?
I wouldn't say I'm cured or anything like that, but um, I'd say probably 20 years. Like I'd say it's only recently, in the last 5 years or whatever, where I've I've really taken it seriously to, know.
And in those 20 years, what would you say has been the hardest point for you?
Um, just the judgment from other people, I think, is one of the worst things. I think people judge sexuality in a different way. I think it's wrong to judge any addict because 9 times out of 10, the person who's judging is addicted to something else. I think sex is frowned upon and it's made to be this shameful thing if you've had sex with loads of people.
Why do you think it is viewed differently to other addictions?
I think they're all pretty. I think they're all quite judged. I think I won't say it's more. I just think it's probably a lot. It's a sex is something that most people have and enjoy, isn't it? Whereas you can't just cut sex out like you could do with alcohol or drugs. I suppose it's a bit more. I think some people probably think it doesn't exist, or you know, it's not a real addiction.
And so that journey to shifting away your behavior, how did you start that?
Um, well, I started off with some questionnaires, and then I started going to like group therapy, and had like a sponsor and stuff like that. Then I had a period of like nearly 3 months where I was on my own and I was celibate, and that was really hard. Like I got like flu symptoms, and it was really strange how it affected me. Like you wouldn't think that something like that would affect you, just from not having sex, but that's how it made me feel. And I'd lost my crutch, so my emotions were really bad. Like I was just crying all the time. Uh,
Ah, yo es que saludando y al menos me mandan los mensajes, hey, ¿cómo están? Cuando me ven dicen, puede ser, buenas noches, ¿qué tal todo? Si tienen comida, no, uy, gracias a Dios hay comida, pa. Gracias Padre Celestial por la comida. Muy bien, ¿cómo están? Piensen, pues, lleguen, comentariecito. Pero bueno, con fe que Dios nos manda a los vivos. Toda la fe está en el Señor. Dios conmigo, who am I conquer? Cuando me dicen no puede ser. Y tenemos dos espectadores en Kick, qué gran streamer. Pronto, pronto con 100, ¿se imaginan 100 espectadores? Mi proyecto tenía 100 espectadores, pero no consistentes, eso es lo que pasa. Creo que busco una forma de retener más la audiencia, porque yo puedo a veces tener pics, pero baja la vuelta. Listo. El Iván sí se los paso y no saludo. Así es que nos va borrando de la lista, normal. Relajado.
felt really suicidal. I didn't have, you know, just anything to take that pain away. I'm a big believer in therapy. Yeah,
Dice
that's
la gente
helped a
más.
lot as well. I think everyone should have therapy. Because it just helps you make sense of what you've been through and gets it all out there.
And how long ago was it that you started to build away from the addiction?
Um, well, since I met my partner now, he's called Matt. He, yeah, I just knew I wanted to be committed. Um, but it was really weird for me being committed and not because I'd always had this on off relationship. So I was like committed.
Uf, le valió el regaño, ¿no? La chancla para usted sabe que si se regañaría, volvió, vea. ¿Qué más cómo está? Tía, no. Alondra, ¿qué tal? Y yo, pues, mi bro, ¿cómo va todo?
Then But when you're committed to
Tocó. No está respetando el proceso, tocó. Métele el botín. A mí que me siguieran.
like one person,
No
yeah,
escuché.
you've got
Ah, pasó muy rápido. Estoy viendo unos videos, bro, realetas. Santiago Sato, ¿qué tal? Gracias, Santiago Sato mantiene el quiere prendido, mantiene la vuelta prendida. La pámpara la mantiene encendida, sí, señor. Pero bueno, lo pongo en contexto. Son unos videos, la verdad, como de gente en casos muy, no sé si extremos, en casos, por así decirlo, para no encasillarlos. Pero en este caso, esa mujer está hablando de una adicción que tuvo 20 años al tan fuerte, ok. También ese otro, que es un chico que es como un hitman de From esto. Y también vea, policía tan curiosa la vuelta y pues no los expone como malos, solo los exponen como su situación y cómo llegaron a eso. ¿Qué tengo que ver yo? No, nada, lo estoy poniendo en contexto de qué es lo que estoy viendo, por si quiere acompañarme. La mujer habla mucho como de las energías y esas cosas, y la verdad yo considero que eso sí existe. Ahí sí eso es aleta, toca aceptar. El sexo no es bueno. El sexo solo es bueno si es con una persona que usted ama.
got no where to run or hide. Do you know what? So all my vulnerabilities came up then. So yeah, that in itself has been challenging, but I'm so glad that I've stuck by that and stood with it because it just gets better and better and things come up to be healed all the time.
I feel like the addiction kind of never really goes away. It's always going to be part of you. If you have urges and impulses now, how have you learned to manage that?
Well, I mean, I'm quite lucky. Like, we have a really good sex life, and like in my relationship, so we're sexually compatible. I think I'm quite matched. I think that's important. Like to find someone. I think that's important in general for relationships to find someone you quite match with on that level. I think if I don't feel like it, for whatever reason we've not had as much sex as what we normally do, or I do start to get like really panicky.
Battery is low. Please recharge in time.
Like people have
Le
like a
le
couple of
mama
addictions or a
nube.
couple of things that they find comfortable, and mine's food as well. So I just end up eating loads when I'm not having enough sex. I'm gonna put weight on, so that's a bit annoying.
And you can recognize it in yourself and you go,
Yeah, I think you've got to resist that urge to go into your old behaviours. You've just got to find a way to just talk to yourself, whether you talk yourself around or
Battery is low. Please recharge in time.
be strong.
Poco apágalo.
Don't just say it may as well be something empowering.
and with addiction, a lot of people say that, you know, people are born with an addictive personality.
Yeah.
Do you believe that, or do you think it's something that
I think some people are, but then I think there's other people who develop it just through their upbringing who aren't born like that, but just become like that because they've seen their parents do it, or you know something's happened in childhood that just where they feel worthless for whatever reason.
how would you want people's perception of sexuality to shift in society?
I just wish people would stop shaming other people for sexuality. I don't think it's fair.
Do you think that it's true that more men are addicted to sex than women?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't say so. I don't think men and women are as different as what we're made out to believe. It's my personal belief. I think we're more similar than what we think. One of the indicators of sex and love addiction is staying in.
Es más, yo le mandé esa foto para invitarla. Es lo que yo no sé, es lo que usted tiene. Pues yo no quiero ponerme raro porque estoy con algo mal, yo estoy algo mal. Cuéntame si tienes algo que decirme, no sé de las cosas. Ah, no, si toco regañarla, ok. Entonces, esa realeta. Uy, no, mano. Uy, no, mano. Usted tiene que ver ese live en YouTube, bro. Yo no sé si usted estaba en el live ahorita más temprano, pero eso ya lleva real tiempo. Bueno, tanto tiempo no, 1 hora y 45. Pero justo ese tema era el que yo estaba cantando todo el live. El amor es una magia. No, no diga, como que otra vez. Y como, y Sergio me dice que en bobo, no, mano, yo no soy bobo. I'm too intelligent, yo soy muy inteligente, bro. Mucho cuidado. El amor es una magia. Uy, mano, sí tiene mucho brillo. No, mano, pero sabes que, mano, no te enamores de mí, no te enamores de mí, por favor. No, yo no sé qué voy a hacer por aquí. Ya no, no sé qué voy a hacer.
Meses. Pero la verdad, claro, única, si tienes 4 años a cada oportunidad, podrías tener 2 intentos muy exitosos. Y lo mejor de todo es que solo uno tiene que salir bien. Pero la única regla para que todo esto vaya bien es que tienen que ser buenos intentos. Cualquier cosa en la que tú inviertas tu tiempo debería ser.
No, mano, le dije que el amor es una magia y ya. No es ni chimba, ¿no? También el celular está un poquito. Un poquito sucio. Yo creo que ese movimiento ya no se lo esperaba. Ay, Manuel. Eso fue mero gol. Bueno, la verdad, yo soy como Cristiano, bro.
Mira, aléjate de todos. Tus amigos de ahora probablemente no van a ser los amigos que tengas al... ¿Cómo cambiar tu vida en 60 segundos? Aléjate de todos, cómprate un portátil y aprende una habilidad. Aléjate de todos. Tus amigos de
Serio.
ahora van a ser los amigos que tengas al final de tu vida y muchos de ellos te frenarán por el camino. Cómprate un portátil. El mundo está evolucionando hacia un mundo cada vez más tecnológico. Puedes hacer cualquier trabajo desde un ordenador
Pues
sin presión.
importante.
Y tres, aprende una habilidad 2.0 que tardarás meses en aprender y te permitirá generar ingresos sin necesidad de un jefe de la universidad y desde cualquier parte del mundo. Como hizo Byron, que ahora está generando más de 9.000 euros al mes gracias a aprender una habilidad 2.0. Si quieres saber en qué consisten estas habilidades 2.0, comenta la palabra habilidad en este reel y te mando un vídeo privado donde te explico cómo puedes aprenderlas y qué es lo que son. Míralo antes de que lo borres. ¿Cómo cambiar tu vida en 60 segundos? Esto es superar la necesidad base de Pereira, hospedaje de alta calidad para turistas. Estará ubicado en el corazón.
Esa china, hermano. Necesidad base. La necesidad base de perder la educación. Con los peajes de alta calidad.
De la ciudad, a tan solo unos metros de la avenida del Alcázar, justo enfrente de Megacentro Pinares y del nuevo proyecto Torre Vital. Pereira está recibiendo semanalmente más de 56.000 visitantes. Esta es tu oportunidad de ser dueña de su propia suite. Hoy tenemos unidades disponibles desde los 432 millones de pesos. Escríbenos y te asesoramos con tu nueva inversión. Gestión te sugerirá la necesidad base de Pereira, hospedaje de alta calidad para turistas. Estará ubicado en el corazón de la ciudad, a tan solo unos metros de la avenida del Alcázar, justo enfrente de Megacentro Pinares y del nuevo proyecto Torre Vital. Pereira está recibiendo semanalmente más de 56.000 visitantes. Esta es tu oportunidad. ¿Cómo cambiar tu
Uf, mano. Yo no traje nada de tomar, bro. Por eso estoy tan estrelladito. Mejor dicho, al regreso. Hágale, manito. Voy a traer algo de tomar y ya vuelvo yo también. Va a llamar Petalín. Uy, no, 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 yo sé yo que tengo. El éxito es inevitable. Welcome to the jungle. To the jungle.
Our group had just arrived in the ramp where this was taking place. Another group was obviously gonna execute else we're gonna execute them. They were obviously recording everything to send a message to the rivals. And they went at it with axes and chainsaw. They dismembered everywhere. Why would they do that? So basically, they want to put out a message. Maybe this person took money away from the cartel, or they got involved in businesses where they didn't come through. In order to make sure that other associates don't follow the same route, they put them as an example. Once the society or the people where these people are operating, they see several heads appear in the morning with a big old message or several pieces of bodies scattered around the city. And it's easy for you to go and ask for extortion from anybody. And they would, with the fear that that might happen to them or to their family members, they will pay. And then I'll have to ask you, what was the most violent thing you've done yourself? There's a lot of things. But one in particular was I was taking two recruits to do a task that was given to us. Um, these recruits obviously were new; they didn't know what they were doing. They got nervous. They came back into the car and they told me that the people that were there were armed. Um, we pull up near this person, and this person is obviously a rival. Um, the person in the back seat, I was driving. The person in the back seat pulled out a rifle and shot him. He missed the shot, but it injured him on the leg. Um, at this moment, the rifle jams. The recruit was panicking. I jumped out of the car, took the rifle, busted the bullet out, and cocked it back in, and I shot him again. This person was still agonizing, trying to drag himself through the pavement. Um, the rifle jammed again, so I basically went up to him and smashed him with the butt of the rifle until he exploded, and that was it. Jumped back in the car and left. Obviously, there's more things that I've done I'm not willing to discuss at the moment.
How many people do you think you've killed those?
I've been in the game for a long time, more than 70 probably.
When we talk about all those people killed and tortured, have you ever thought back about them, thought about their families? What were you the emotions you were going through?
You have to understand that you can't take anything personal. It's only a job, you know. Only it's only business. The moment that you do take it personal, everything goes south. There's definitely there's honor in it. Uh, I think that's the only way that you survive. You know? That's the only way that karma doesn't hit you in your back. Is by having honor. Obviously, honor in the way that how you handle yourself. You know. Obviously, there is sometimes that I think about a lot of things every day. You know. In my case, had no family. Try to avoid being even close to anybody that you had any feelings towards because they could use that as leverage.
I mean, it sounds harrowing, but it also sounds like quite a lonely existence.
It is.
So I know you went to prison. Can you explain how and why you got there?
Yeah, they had killed someone real close to me, and I went out of my way to look for these people and get that situation taken care of. While I was in the area where I had taken care of these people, I was caught up by state and federal government, and I was arrested, taken, tortured, and then later on, I'm informed that I was being accused of murder and perjury. That's how I ended up in prison.
And what was the sentence?
They wanted to give me 30 years of prison for murder. I only did 3 years. Prison is a whole different ballgame to what prisoners in the U.S. might feel that prison is about. I've known a lot of inmates in Mexico that have been uh, felons in the U.S. and that have spent time in federal prisons, and they tell me over there it's a 5-star hotel compared to where we're at now. Um, if you have no family, you have no clothes. They don't give you squat. Basically, your family have to come in and drop you off clothes that they obviously ask of a certain color. They have to drop you off toilet paper. They have to drop you off soap, shampoos, whatever you need to keep yourself clean inside of prison. Your family has to give to you. Other than that, the prison system basically makes sure that you have 3 meals a day and water. That's all they take care of. The cells can go anything from 11 inmates to I think 16 in one cell that is meant for 4 people. So you're speaking about having people sleeping on top of the toilet underneath the bench that you have to have your food in the middle of the what do you call it, that little space that you have in the middle of the two concrete beds and two underneath the concrete bed. A lot of people think that correctional officers are the ones that are in charge inside. They are not. The ones that are in charge are the inmates and the cartel that runs the prison system. Because for every prison that there is a cartel behind it. The guards are sometimes they have no option, you know. It's like they're there between
Sí, buenas noches.
the sword and the wall. If they don't cooperate with what the cartel wants, then they know that they're going to be dealt with outside. Um, so they try to just keep it chill, you know, in the way that they know who not to mess with and who they can obviously put their hands on. They're pretty down to earth, you know, because obviously they see other co-workers get killed for trying to oppose the cartel. What they're doing is they're basically just trying to survive and trying to get the best of it, because obviously there's a lot of bribery going on and there's a lot of prostitution inside of prison as well with the inmates, like with the female inmates, because obviously there's prisons where there's female and male. They're in different sections, but the prison guards, their money is prostituting the female inmates that are inside. And I ended up in prison because of the nature of my case and for the cartel that I was working for. I was privileged to be moved to a certain area where I was entitled to several stuff, and obviously I was given a job. I was interrogating anybody that was coming in for drugs, for homicide, for kidnapping. We would go in with the permission of the security of the correctional officers, pull out smartphones, start taking pictures, start interrogating inside of a prison. When I arrived in prison, obviously they promise you the stars that they're going to get you out, that they're going to help you, that they're going to continue on supporting you. Obviously, those are all lies. What they want is basically they want you to put whoever you have out there that is loyal to you as a person because they know who you are. Uh, Keep them working for their organization. So obviously, when I saw that my case was not progressing and that I had no benefits in having a lawyer from the cartels, because at the end of the day, sometimes those lawyers are working for someone else, you know. So they're not there trying to get you out. They're there to make sure that you stay in. Um, so I basically washed my hands and said, you know what, I'm done with you guys. I with the rivals, I'm with you. I
Eddie,
just want to be
la ley
left alone because
Castillo.
obviously my time here is going to be long. Um, they didn't accept that, and obviously there was repercussions. Um, was being to the degree where I have a broken rib, a busted eardrum. Uh, when I got better, I spoke to a lot of people that were in the prison with me, that were Chicanos, and they weren't just part of the cartel. They were just Chicanos, you know. And we made a riot. We popped the prison like it's commonly known. Uh, we murdered two of their leaders, and made a big party. We got transferred to a state prison, a maximum security state prison, and I spent another year and a half in that prison. I think those were the most violent ones. The prison where I had come from was a prison of approximately 500 to 600 inmates, and I was taken to a prison where there was 13,000 inmates. I think it's one of the
mm, one of my experiences that I will never forget. Just the amount of things that I saw inside. Ended up getting in maximum security, and the riot popped off right 2 weeks when I was in there. There was 14 people killed. The main boss was decapitated, and they were playing basketball and with his head. The anti-riot correctional officers came and they knocked on the door, on the maximum security door, to try to get in, and they weren't allowed in. Uh, they put all the dead bodies in the main entrance, and they told them that there was no problems inside maximum security, that all they wanted was them to take their trash. For a moment, I started laughing to myself. I was like, yeah, they're not gonna listen to us. They did. They went back. The people that lift up the dead bodies and the criminal investigations came in, took their pictures and took the bodies. All that built up of violence and memories and people that you loved gone starts getting to you, starts eating up what you have left of human inside of you. You have everything, you have money, you have drugs, you have women, but you don't have peace. You start thinking about what's there to come after you die, because you see people go left and right, and there was occasions where obviously you're in gunfights that last up to 2 hours, hour and a half, and you don't really know if you're gonna come out of those gunfights. So I started questioning everything. Started questioning that last up to two. Is you see people go left and right, and there was occasions where obviously you're in gunfights that last up to 2 hours, hour and a half, and you don't really know if you're gonna come out of those gunfights. So I started questioning everything. Started questioning who I was and why I was there, and if what I was doing had any honor, if it was worth it dying for. I wasn't about to go back to prison. So mentally, I was preparing myself to obviously get murdered, and end my life in combat. Like I said, I started questioning everything because of the level of stupidity of other lieutenants, and knowing the how the game works. You're just a pawn for the real people that are making money. They're not gonna worry for you. They're not loyal to you. You're just something that can be replaced by something else. I think that's when I realized that, you know what, I speak two languages. I speak English, I speak Spanish. I'm not someone that is stupid. I've been able to survive this long. Like, there should be a purpose of why I'm still alive. Because in reality, I was looking for a way out. I still had bottled up the emotions of living in a scarred family, and especially the trauma that you go when you see your own father do something like that. Like, it was around January. It was cold. We were up in the mountains, and in my head, we were going into some conflict with another lieutenant that basically wanted to take what I had. So he was trying to get me killed at the same time, and it was killing the lieutenant and getting into more problems with the cartel, and running to another cartel for trying to get help, obviously, or it was leaving everything the way it was, just leaving everything behind. Just got my person out of there, and that's what at the end of the day I did.
Rudy,
Left my rifle, took my vest off, left the drugs that we had in the car, left the money that
I trust you.
stole one of their pickups, and just drove until the gas ran out.
What about your family? You talked about your mom and your siblings. Are you still in contact with them?
Yeah, I'm in contact with them. I haven't seen my mom since 17 years. That's the last time I saw her, 17 years ago. So it's been a long ride by myself. I am in contact with them. There was a point where they didn't really we had no communication. When I got in contact with them, it was like, now you remember you have a son. Now you remember you have a brother. Like, you guys shouldn't be crying. Like, we all take our decisions, and we have to live with our consequences. So if anything happens to me, then don't worry about it. Let the dogs eat me, 'cause that's the life I chose. That's what I would say. What about your dad? Nah, probably put a bullet in his head. If I couldn't when I was younger, when I'm older, then definitely, you know. What is the future for you? What are you looking forward to? Nowadays, I'm a boxing instructor because I've always been into combat sports. Um, we have a group of kids in Mexico that we help out, obviously, trying to give them the best advice to avoid what one has been through, you know? Um, so for me, it's if I can put in any small seed of help in order for our future generations, I'd rather do that than anything else than try to like to make money or try to be in a better position. I'm not worried about that because I've already been there, you know? I've had all the money in the world and it doesn't really give you anything. You're still empty. I've grown up without a father. You know, I know the consequences of being alone in life and where it's led me. I think Mexico has that problem that most of the families are broken up. You see kids running around 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, you know. Um, and sometimes they just need that extra motivation of someone that believes in them. So that's what's there for me, you know.
Uy, Yasmin,
There is obviously quite a lot there. Do you think this has an impact on you? Do you think there's any PTSD or anything like that? Yeah, I suffer of PTSD, suffer insomnia, um, lack of emotion sometimes. Sometimes they tell me that I'm very cold. Um, it's something that you can't just let go out of the blue, you know. I think it takes time to understand that you're no longer in that life, you know, and try to lower your guard because obviously in that life you're always with your guard up. You don't really know how to deal with normal people. You don't know how to deal with your family. In my case, uh, it's difficult. You just try to pretend that all of that stuff has been left behind when it hasn't. Does anything haunt you from all of those days? I have to say no, because I know that I haven't killed anybody that's innocent. You know, obviously, if I was given several tasks to kill people's mothers, people's wife, and I have always objected it because that's not the person that I am. What's done is done, and I think that I wouldn't change anything in my life because it makes me the person that I am today.
porque
There's
Jehová
no
es
what ifs.
bueno para siempre su
That's the life
misericordia
in the world.
y su verdad por todas las generaciones. Alabemos al Señor, el Dios invisible que nos ha redimido de la muerte. Aunque no lo veamos, su pueblo lo va a conocer. Imagina a todos cantando gozos al Señor. Recordemos que Jesús soportó la cruz por nuestra salvación. Comprendamos la grandeza de Dios y caminemos con Él. Alabemos al Señor por su bondad y misericordia. Oración del Padre Dios que te bendiga. Oh Señor, dame sabiduría para guiarme por tus caminos y vivir en tu grandeza y tu misericordia. Dame la fuerza para seguir sirviéndote con fidelidad y gratitud. De todo corazón te pido con toda mi alma. Te lo pido con toda mi alma. Amén. Oración tiene poder. Y no, mano, yo me quedé reí que tiro tanto. Dámelo 100 bien. Todo aquí en chingarme sin los billetes de 100. Tasando en San Valentín. Una noche, la noche completa. Cuatro chimbitas, cuatro personalidades. Dos me hablan bonito. Diferentes personalidades. Pero cuando quiere que la lleve pa' medallo, quiere que la lleve para el carro del año. Mañana yo no voy a dormir, ya como que sí. You only want me for my body. No, for me. Edwin, ¿cómo estás? Una besita para que las personas, la buena. You, Mercy. That's not your own streaming, bro. Que me avisa, me pare de velocidad. Siempre en mis brazos. Siempre. Que no existe el odio, recuérdame. Ay, va a terminar, ¿no? ¿Y por qué sea la buena?
quieres salirte, pero no sabes cómo.
Jorge, lo has
Estás en una
pillado
agencia
uno
de TikTok
durísimo
y
ese marica.
quieres salirte, pero no sabes cómo. Mira este video porque es más fácil de lo que crees. Muchos piensan que una agencia te puede retener para siempre y eso no funciona así. Acompáñame. Vas a dirigirte a tu perfil y usarás la opción de estudio. Una vez estés allí, entrarás en la sección de Time. Ahora desliza hasta encontrar herramientas y recursos. Desplegamos el menú y seleccionamos Edición. Desliza hasta encontrar traslados y abandonos. Y aquí en solicitud de retirada. Le damos en continuar. Aquí encontrarás las opciones. Elige la que más se de ti. Selecciona un motivo. Agrega detalles de por qué desea retirarle. Y listo, solo da limpiar. Esta es una agencia victoria y quieres.
Siempre le agradece el apoyo, mi hermano. Muchísimas gracias. Los consejos son está buena. Se le siente la energía que un video quiere apoyarte, pero sí, yo lo bendiga. Siempre llovió, llovió.
En este video te voy a explicar cómo vos misma o vos mismo vas a poder crear tu propio producto digital que te genere 5 cifras al día completamente con inteligencia artificial en menos de 5 minutos y sin escribir un solo párrafo. Muy buenas chicos, ¿cómo andan? Sean todos bienvenidos a este nuevo video. Si no me conoces, permitidme presentarme. Mi nombre es Santiago Bilbao. Hace 5 años estaba empezando una carrera universitaria completamente perdido, sin un rumbo, sin un propósito, sin objetivos, sin metas, completamente desalineado. Estaba en cero quebrado, obligado por mis padres a estudiar una carrera universitaria y lo peor de todo, mantenido por mis padres. Y si me remonto unos años antes, de que tengo aproximadamente 10, 11 años hasta los 19, también laburaba con mi viejo laburos físicos muy pesados, como lo es cargar leña, como lo es cargar lana, como lo es trabajar con maquinarias. Pero realmente estoy demasiado agradecido de haber podido atravesar esas circunstancias porque esas circunstancias son las que crearon la persona que soy hoy en día. Una persona no solo capaz de construir, sino de mantener en el tiempo un negocio de más de 6 cifras en beneficio al mes. Si te preguntas qué es lo que hago, básicamente vendo productos digitales y enseño a hacer exactamente lo mismo a más de 500 personas dentro de mi servicio de consultoría Academia Launch Expert. Academia que ha cambiado la vida de literalmente cientos de personas, como lo puedes ver en mi Instagram, @santiagobilbao.mkt. Puedes venir a buscarme ahí a Instagram. Tengo decenas de casos de éxito. Tengo personas haciendo literalmente más de $7.600 de ganancia al día, para que vos te des una idea. Tengo personas haciendo $3.000 al día, tengo personas haciendo $2.000 al día de ganancia, de ganancia,
Aquí
$10.000 al
estoy,
día de
ay, ay,
ganancia,
ay.
decenas de personas en $1.000 al día de
Jorge,
ganancia.
tengo ganas de meterme en una agencia para salirme. ¿Qué no? Pero sí, es que hace mucho tiempo a mí me ofreció una agencia y yo la verdad me comporté mal, porque una chica que hacía también lives me dijo a mí como, uy, mano, no, lo van a robar la cuenta, sálgase de eso. Entonces yo le dije a la chica que me compartió la cosa de la agencia que me quería salir y ella me decía como, no, como que me mandaba mensajes como que no, como raros. Yo la verdad le insulté. Eso está re mal. Pero yo no, déjeme salir de eso ya, pues. No me estalle, que yo no quiero estar en eso me va a obligar. Y creo que le dije un par de malas palabras, pero no estoy orgulloso de eso, pero yo creo que era algo bueno y la otra chica pues no tenía conocimiento, o no sé, pero sí, al final no me metí, pero eso fue, uff, recién empezando, por ahí ya mes o algo así, pero no sé qué tal. ¿Usted sabe eso? ¿Conoce eso, Jorge? Sí, preguntando. Felipe Acevedo, No te olvides, no. Siempre. Ay, que vivan las mujeres. Mentira, no. Pero sí, que vivan las mujeres. Se dio la vuelta, señor, y cayó, se cayó. Lleva saladra. Yasmín, no me mires. Yo creo que fue tu
Puedes ver, por
culpa.
ejemplo, acá, miren esto, $7.600 de ganancia al día con un revenue de $16.000, el caso de Rodrigo. Tengo muchas personas, acá tenemos más de $2.500 de ganancia al día.
Oh, muchachos, mucha ganancia al día. Vamos a dormir. Está ya. Que Dios los bendiga a todos. La buena. Kisho. God bless you. No sé quién esté aquí, pero que la oración que graba pues, en YouTube con toda la fe. Saber leer la vida. Ver el Padre, el Dios, que todo Santo. Amén. Señor mío, Dios mío, yo estoy tranquilo en tu presencia, despojándome de toda preocupación y confiando plenamente en ti. Sabes, mi Dios, todo lo que vivo y hago. Conoces mis objetivos y los trabajos que todos los días realizo. Y solo te pido que hagas fructificar esos esfuerzos y me cuides de todos aquellos que buscan hacerme daño. Por favor, por favor. En este momento quiero contemplar el lugar en el que estoy y reconocer lo que me habla de ti. Si estoy al lado de las personas que amo, descubrir en ellas una muestra del amor que tú tienes para mí. Si estoy en mi hogar, en mi trabajo, por la calle, etcétera, dar gracias por cada cosa que está allí y entender qué hay y para qué. Gracias, mi Dios, por todas las bendiciones que he recibido a lo largo de este día y por las que recibiré mañana cuando vuelva a salir a conquistar mis sueños. Amén. Qué poderoso, ¿qué? Por todas las bendiciones que he recibido a lo largo de este día y por todas las que recibiré mañana cuando vuelva a salir a conquistar mis sueños. Amén. Vale. Del Padre, el Espíritu Santo. Amén. La señal de la Santa Cruz de nuestros enemigos. Y ahora en la gracias a Deus. Obrigado, Deus. Hey, muchachos, Dios los bendiga a todos. God bless you guys. See you later in another life. Eu vou tentar traduzir esta oração em português. Senhor meu, é um Deus meu. Eu estou aqui, tranquilo, em tua presença, para despojar-me de tua preocupação, de tua confiança, eu confiando plenamente em você. Você sabe, meu Deus, eu todo o que he vivido e hago. Conheces meus objetivos e os trabalhos que todos os dias eu realizo. Eu só te pido que hagas fructificar esos refuerzos, esos esfuerzos, el que me cuide de todos aquellos que buscan hacerme daño. enfermedad. E nesse momento eu quero contemplar o lugar onde estou. Eu reconhecer lo que me habla de ti, lo que me habla de você. Se eu sou se eu sou compartilhando com as pessoas que amo, descobrir em elas que mostra do amor que tens para mim. Se sou em meu hogar, em meu trabalho, para casa, etc. Dar graças por cada coisa que sair e entender que há para quê. Obrigado, meu Deus, por, por todas as bendições que eu recebido ao longo do dia, e por las que recibiré mañana, quando vuelva a salir a conquistar meus sueños. Amém. Meu pai, bonita, como estás? Meu pai, tipo, sonhos, Espírito Santo. Amém. Ahora en inglés. Senior mind, good night. I'm here relaxed in your presence without any worry and believe, really believe in you. You know, my God, all that I live, all that I lived, and I did. You know my objectives and the words that I do all the days. I only say to you that give me, that make you make, like get fruits or get like, yeah, get fruits of my forces and take care of me, of all the people that want and share to make me damage. In this moment, I want to contemplate the place that I are, in the place that I am, yeah, and recognize what it say to me. If I am with the person that I love, look in her show of your love that you have for me. If I'm in your home, in your work, in the streets, if I'm at home, in my work, in the streets, ATC, I don't know how to say ETC in English. ATC, other things. Say thank you for each thing that is say there and understand why is that there and for what. Thanks God, thanks my God for all the blessings that I received in the large of this day and for all and for that I will receive tomorrow when I again go out for make my dreams real. In this case, this like say like take my dreams like I don't know the name, the word conquistar. A ver, traductor. Uh, sorry, sorry. Mhm. To conquer.
To conquer.
To conquer. To conquer. Mano, l'inglese de United Kingdom è Cimba. Cioè,
To conquer.
To conquer.
Conquer templates.
To conquer templates. I'm going to conquer the templates. Muchachos, no la buena. Que Dios me los bendiga a todos. Sin va a ser un like solo, la verdad. Un like con un real. Dios mío, no. Padre bellísimo. No me sabiduría, Señor. Pero mi muchacho, la buena. Está así. Todo bien.